Okay. Should be live now. Alright, so let's do that all the time. What I worked on last time was assembling this guy. And it works structurally. Everything was cut and matched up size-wise as I wanted. But I had issues with it working as an animation of sorts. So what I initially had planned was, let me detach these guys right here. Initially what I did was let me separate this as well. I attached these tabs and then I held it down in place and sprayed ink, and then that gave me the still on this side. But when it is actually like stretched out and has the physical element like in its size, and you look through the hole that's cut right here, you can't see anything because it's so close to this pivot point that you don't have enough of an angle. So I then took and folded it on the opposite direction with this increased amount of distance from the pivot point, and that gives you a much better distance, but it still isn't like enough. And what I need to do, or what I'd like to do today, is take these guys and do a new animation that uses fewer frames so that the structure of the book ultimately has longer connecting tabs, and it's just fewer things, so it's easier to deal with. So this area is larger, and it can also be longer further down into the structure, so you have a little bit more of a distance between what you're viewing and the viewport is what I called it. And that should help with things. So I'm going to make just a simple 8 or 12 frame animation. I need to decide that. If it's 8 frames, it's closer to a square sort of form when it's 1.5 inches tall. I can also go taller with a taller book. It also means that this will connect much tighter because the distance between the magnets is just that many folds total. So it's half the number of pages if I do 8. So I don't know if 12 is better or worse, but I'll show you. Why is that up there? I don't know. But this is fewer frames, and here's fewer frames. This is the sort of spacing when it's half the number of frames, but if I make it, this is very slow moving. 12, that's a moderate amount of space. Let me just get a I'm trying to think if it's set up like that. I'm trying to figure out whether or not it would be better to have these tabs have the things fall over here. can change the position and it won't be an issue. Do have to mess with that. And there's some issues that come about no matter what. I also need to change that. But anyway, today is the animation, and then I'll mess with the logistics of it all after the fact. For now, what I need is just a something that lets me know this is going to be a rectangle that lets me know what size frame I need to work in, like aspect ratio wise. So I'm just gonna grab this, and this is total flap length divided by 2 minus overlap width. That just gives me, and then the height is page height minus overlap width. That gives me a little bit of a buffer. So how many pages am I conceivably working with? I have 12. I think 12 gives me a little bit better in animation, so I think I'm going to work with that. So this is, just write this down. Wait, do I want to make this taller? I kind of want to make this like 2 inches tall instead of 1.5. Yeah, I'm going to go 2 inches, which means that this is now 1.83. And I'm going to work a bit larger than that. I can actually just, let's take this and apply stroke that is 0.05. No, 0.02. Whatever. File. Just gonna export the SVG, open this up in, yep. Now it means to open Premiere. I clicked the wrong button. Click the wrong icon. Didn't really need to write that down. I don't know if it's better or worse to, you know what, I'm not going to bother printing this. That's extraneous. That's unnecessary. So Premiere I can quit. Photoshop or Illustrator, whatever. Let's come back here. Everything's running slow right now, so I don't know what the frame rate looks like in the video. It dropped down. Turn that off. Donate Illustrator running. Come back here and Okay, this is an approximate scaling of it. Eventually I'll need it to be like precise for whatever, but um, so I need to measure out 4 inches by 2.25 inches. Yes. Let's go. Let me visually see how this compares. Looks pretty similar. Okay, that's my workspace. And let's see what that looks like on camera position wise. Okay. Really don't know what I want. Like, the easy thing is a walk cycle, where you have silhouette, but I'm trying to make it more interesting for like what the figure is. Basic walk cycle. You have the front. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This pen is, I forget what brand and such is. I'll just look it up on my phone. It's I bought one that I really liked, and then the case cracked, and so it's a fountain brush. Let me just look up pen in my orders. This is a, I'll type it in the thing here. No worries. I'm sort of just figuring stuff out as I work along. I'm going to move this mic out of the way. It's a Kuretake fountain brush pen number 40. I believe it has sable hair, which is or squirrel, I forget. There's some fiber that's good for like brush pens. Forget how much this cost, because that's something that you can know going into it. This one was $27.99. Thank you. The music, if you want to listen to it on streaming, it's on streaming and stuff. This is part of a tape called Three. All the songs are 75 BPM. They're slower. I made a bunch of songs that were meant for background of streaming. So I slowed down the pacing of it all. And it's a lot of just simple stuff that has wait, no, this should be not 4 but 10, or not 8 but 10. There's a lot of delay effect and stuff like that. Okay, so I have 4 and 10. I'm trying to make a walk cycle that will be more appropriate for this animation book I've been working on. And so I gotta eventually get it into like a cleaner visual bit. Yeah, and the cassette that you see on screen is just down by my feet. So it's a live feed of the cassette playing. Started making music to sort of avoid copyright stuff when streaming platforms got more stringent about what they would and wouldn't allow for streaming music wise. It's not on Bandcamp, but it is on Spotify and other streaming things. You can also, if you just want to listen to it, it should be on YouTube. I'll throw this out there because why not promote myself in a different way? It's also all available on my Patreon. So how these have been sort of structured is initially I just was making a bunch of music to try and fill out time, because if I'm streaming for several hours, it takes a lot to fill up hours of tape time. And so it was like ambient. I just like get as much out as possible. Then I got a little bit more intentional with it, and then I was putting out all of the music that I made. My concurrent viewers right now is listed as -1, which is funny to me. Okay. So I recorded a bunch of tapes, and they are actual tapes because I like the physicality of it. And I was curious about changing the speed of things. But sorry, all around the way. Going back and forth on all these different things. On Patreon, I put out music most weekdays, so I like make little recordings of stuff and put it out to Patreon if you're at the mid-tier, which is $6 a month. But if you want to just download a bunch of it, you can sign up, download it, and then hop off. You don't have to be connected for an extended period of time to get all that. Let me just take some of these off. I'm thinking, animating, talking in various bits. But yeah, if you want to go to Patreon, you can get a bunch of stuff there. That's patreon.com/traceloops. It's not on Bandcamp. Oh, you did? Okay, I forget who's whatever. If you go to the mid-tier to 6, then you get new songs weekdays. How I listen to them is you can treat it as a podcast feed, and so it'll just update. They post at 11. I say most weekdays because sometimes I get caught up in things and I don't have time to get music, but up to like 5 songs a week is whatever. But that's $6 instead of $3. Thank you for signing up to Patreon. But yeah, if you want to listen to talking all around here, because I'm thinking on different tracks. So I've got a bunch of these tapes. I just have, and I was using them. Twitch was less aggressive about, I guess, whatever. Because I'm having all of the tapes like available for, what am I talking about? Because I'm having the recordings of these streams available on YouTube, they're more stringent about copyright infringement, and most of these tapes are found tapes. That they're like 90-minute tapes that had some stuff already recorded on them. And because of that, there's some, I like having the interstitials, like little things that come between each of the songs. Because it feels like listening to the radio or something that's a little bit outside of my control, and those would get flagged for copyright. And so I stopped playing these full original recording things on stream, and I selected the best 30 minutes of them, and that's what gets pushed to Spotify and places. Is I edit it down to about 30 minutes That was also because I would like send stuff to my friends, and if I was making like 90 minutes of music, it's a lot to ask someone to listen to 90 minutes of instrumental music. And there was no flow to the music because I don't make it really intentionally to like connect one song to the next. I just sort of make it as it goes. Oh, got a little bit of here's this place there. And so I can order the songs a little bit better if I make it be 30-minute selections instead of 90 minutes. I like having it there. I've been seeing a lot more stuff of people messing with cassettes, and so I wanted to mess with it. I like that it's an analog medium that you can record and record over. And what is the fourth one here? Here. Where you can just record at home onto it, and kind of like video cassette, like VHS stuff. You also have elements of just stuff that doesn't get written over, where CD things are put onto, but there's a greater barrier between saying like record now and what gets pushed to a CD or to a record. But on tapes, it's like press it, it's recording immediately, and there's less concern about what is there because you can record over it. So people were a little less precious with it, and you can find more interesting collections of things because of that. So yeah, I'm trying to think what else I have. I ran out of tapes that I had purchased that had just like more interesting talking points on them. One of the more interesting tapes that I had was like someone was just recording a medical lecture when they were like in med school, and so it's just very clinical discussion of some terrible experiences that people would have, like just talking about how to interact with a stroke victim, but in a way that's like, we're teaching people how to do this, so you're pretty dry about it, and give like just advice in the mix of it, like professional advice. But most of the tapes that I found had recordings of like church services, church or Christmas music is a popular one, and then the tapes that I got a lot of from eBay had some country music and stuff. And then I sought out trying to get some tapes that had more like spoken word things that are better for thinking of song titles when you're making things all the time. And so this tape, I bought some off of eBay that were some books on tape, as well as some like comedy hours. And so this tape has comedy hours on them. The tape that I'm recording to currently is like a travel guide to Florence. And all of it is sort of outdated because nobody uses like travel guide books in the same way that they would have in the past. And they wouldn't have that as a book on tape either. So it's just interesting that the things are outdated. I was considering trying to buy a huge lot of like meditation tapes, but it was like $70 for 150, which isn't a bad deal if you're dealing with that. But I live in an apartment and I already have way too much space dedicated to odds and ends of cassette tapes, so I don't need to have an additional huge number of those. I don't have it connected right now, but I did put some stuff into... I have like 4 cassette decks. The one that is playing right now has the original power in it, and when I got a power adapter for a different one, it created a buzzing noise that got annoying on stream. But on that one, I also put in a motor adjustment thing, pulse something motor, where it, because motors have like a set speed of, like, it has, I think, 6 volts, and at 6 volts it goes at I don't know, like, let's say it's 100 RPMs. You can go and decrease the amount of power that's, or I guess the current that's going to a motor, and it'll slow it down, but that can like burn out a motor and mess it up in different ways. So you can buy a pulse wave modulation, that's what it is, pulse wave, PWM. It's a way to control things that are digital in an analog manner, where if at a regular rate of whatever power, let's say it's 0.5 amps, which I think is way overestimating what it is. 0.5 amps, you get 100 RPM, whatever. You can decrease the amount of current that's going by increasing the resistance, but that's not great for the motor, apparently, from what I've seen. What you can do is get a pulse wave modulation motor or controller, and what that does is it turns on and off at different frequencies, and that will average out to make this RPM go down if you decrease how often it's on, but it's at such a speed that it's unperceptible. It's what's used to like brighten and darken LEDs a lot of the time, because LEDs have like a set brightness. But if you average out, if you have it, let's say you have it over a period of 2 seconds on for 1 second and off for 1 second, it'll be 50% of the energy. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, I did that, and it's interesting sounding. You can slow down playback on cassette tapes. Something that's weird to consider is that a lot of cassette tapes are not at the right speed. That's 10, so this should be sweeping down like this, because they have a very sort of precise thing of how fast they're meant to be going. I'll clean this up a bit later. This is meant to be 08. A little bit back and forth on this walk cycle. We'll see how this looks once I scan it all. If you learn a little bit about how digital interfaces are, you start to understand better why stuff like an NES tape sounds the way it does, where digital things exist primarily in a binary form. That's either 0 or 1, so it's on or off. And a lot of other analog things have the ability to step around and make odds and ends of movements, but digital stuff functions a lot better in on-off. So the acceleration deceleration of physical things as they're creating sound waves tend to accelerate and decelerate. So it goes like fast and then it slows down and then it speeds back up and then slows down, and that creates a sine wave, which essentially sounds like a whistle. If I can whistle. At a certain frequency, but that's sort of pushing and pulling like this and that. Digital things, if they are on and off, they create a buzzing sort of noise, and it sounds unnatural because that's not how things move in nature. Things don't move from point A to point B and stop immediately. And that's the sort of sounds that are generated from like NES and stuff for the most part. You have that, you have triangle waves are easier to like program because it's linear, and that sounds more like a sine wave, but it's a little bit harsher. Then you also have sawtooth, which have that same unnatural lack of acceleration and deceleration. I guess, yeah. In science class, my teacher was like, there's no such thing as deceleration. Acceleration is just a change in speed. Which means that you can slow down and that's still acceleration. It's just a change in speed. I'm going to change the face of this guy eventually, but this is over halfway animated. Essentially what I've done is I made a first frame and a last frame, and then I went and did the in-betweens. Or a first frame and a middle frame, because this is a loop. So what just played is like what was recorded onto the tape, and I think it was Christmas music of some kind. I have a tape where I used that like adjustment of the speed sort of motor thing that I was talking about. And it's a lot of out of tune things. What is it? What I'm using to make the music? I am using my Nintendo Switch and a cassette deck. There's a pretty robust thing you can get for Switch called Core Gadget. You can also get it for desktop, but it's a lot cheaper for I don't know if it's also on other platforms, but I like it on the Switch, Nintendo Switch, because it has a touchscreen interface. So I just sort of sit in front of my cassette deck and mess with it for a while. It's pretty robust on what you can do, so there's some degree of the sound quality that comes from the fact that it's on cassette. But you can do a lot with it. I don't know how familiar you are with any sort of synthesizer companies and such, but Korg, K-O-R-G, makes a lot of stuff, and they have a good Korg gadget. I initially started off using a free synth app on my phone called Synth One and a drum machine that I bought. But then a friend suggested you should mess with Korg Gadget, and then it made it a lot easier to sync things up and just sort of play through it. Got a bunch of stuff on my desk. One thing that's nice about the Switch is if you already bought a Switch, then Korg Gadget is like $40, and that's cheaper than any analog synth you're going to come across. I haven't had to scan things in a minute, and I've got a bunch of stuff sitting on my scanner. Book materials. I also have not studied music theory really at all, and so I sort of press buttons and see what happens. Now I'm going to scan these. You're welcome. The cassette deck that I bought is from the 70s, and it's a Panasonic, I think. I don't know. I wanted to find one that just had visual levels that you could see. So it has, I don't know what it's called, but like a volume level little guy that swings. And I bought a second one. If you do buy old cassette decks, if it's not working, you can probably just put some sort of oil or other lubricant in there and look into buying new belts for it, because chances that if it's like from the 70s, that the little rubber belt has probably crapped out and gotten a little bit worn. So like I had to buy a new one, not for this deck that's playing from here, but for a second one and a third one, and the one that I mostly record to, I had to add some oil to the motor, because the motor was squeaky and it would just like be a little bit out of speed at times. There's a lot of moving pieces in cassette decks. We'll see how well this walk cycle works. What I'm looking is to have a silhouette. That's just like a simple movement that I can treat as an outline. So I can cut it out of paper and use it as a stencil. This side of the tape is almost over. Earlier talking about access to the music, anything that's the like 30-minute mix downs that I make from tapes, those should also be available on YouTube. And there's some earlier tapes that are on YouTube from when I was using the drum machine and the app on my phone. The drum machine I was running through a distortion pedal, and I like the sound of that. The drum machine was like the cheapest I could find. But like a lot of electronics from the 80s and 90s that have some sort of onboard memory, the battery had died that powered that, like something that happens with old Pokemon games, or I think some NES games, cartridge-based systems that had like a time saved into it or something like that. There's a battery, like a small watch battery or hearing aid battery. I think coin battery is the sort of like general term that people use, that are inside of there that will keep it running for years. But when you're dealing with like decades old cartridge-based things, it'll be dead. You gotta replace it, but it's not made to be easily replaced if it's something that's Nintendo. But the drum machine, I had to replace it because it would not save any patterns, and so I had to open that up and replace the battery. Live designs. I'm doing some behind the scenes work. I use image capture to input images to use my scanner. And the file naming convention that it takes is it goes space and then single digit number, space, and then 2 digits, and then, or the number 2, and then it goes whatever. But if you import those into Photoshop, Photoshop will read that as 1. It will order it. If you have like 20 scans of something, it'll go 1, 10, 15. And so have to rename things or reorder things when I import them into Photoshop. It's been a while since I've actually just imported stills. It's weird, something that whenever I do something for a very long time and then I stop, I realize how quickly I forget what those things are. If you, what I've done as a solution is, I don't know how to show you without like sharing my full screen. I'm running on a Mac, and I can order them because image capture is built into the Mac, so it's like it understands that it's 0, 1, and then 2, 3, 4, whatever is what it is. You can, on a Mac, select all the files. You have to add a 0 onto the first file that doesn't have any number after it, and then it will put it in the correct order. Then you select all of them, and I'm gonna do this again on my own thing. Select all of them, secondary click or right click, and go down to rename. And then you go to format, name and counter as the name format. And then you can name it whatever you want. And then have it start, I do after the name because that's how I would name it myself, and then you can start the number at whatever, and then you just rename them, and it'll add 4 zeros to the front. And so you probably can't see super clearly, but in the layer name down here, all of these are 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 2. And that way solves that issue. It's helpful. And has saved me time for importing stuff into Photoshop. Let's see what this looks like. I don't know what this actual animation looks like. This is meant to be a silhouette. And so just a simple walk. The arms sort of switch positions, and that's so it doesn't have to be twice as fast for the frame rate. So let me come back to frame 1 and line this up more or less. This actually isn't crazy important that this is perfect in the long run, because as long as everything's within these general bounds, I have it built into the program that I use for cutting out the files, or to generate the vector files. It will adjust to make sure that it fits in the required space that I defined. Okay, so let me crop this down. Make this just easier to see and work with. Let me change this sizes in inches. I'm going to do 2.25 and 4. Oh, that was accurate. So that I know what size I'm working with, and I'm going to export these stills. And then I'm going to make a grid and go from there. What I'm making is a sprite sheet so that I can reference that sprite sheet in Illustrator and then import that vector file into the browser-based program that I use for making the stills for this book. So what am I doing? Okay. And render that out. And then I'm also going to just, so you can see it playing back at a better speed. Come in here, let's adjust the size. What is this in pixels? It's not so huge. Let's just make this 1200 tall and make this speed a little bit faster. Wait, I'm talking weird. Okay, 0.08 and save this out as an animated GIF. And drop this number of colors because I don't need 64. Let's just make it like 8. I'll make a smaller file and I can play it back. Let's go back to Live Designs. And that should be good. And then I can show you a faster pacing of that in OBS. Change where this is referencing. Live Designs. Tape modified. New book animation. Open this up. So there's a loose guy there, and I'm going to use that. You can see his arms sort of like switch location. This will be just a silhouette, but it was helpful to have for that. So back into Photoshop, File, Script, load files into Stack, and bring in the things that I just exported. Aligned, grab all these, open these, pull these into a stack. And then I'm going to make a sprite sheet by just elongating this to be 12 times the width. And then shifting the position of the character or the frames. So almost there. Just loading these all in. I'll load it in. So let's crop this percent. The width will be 1200 times. Whoa. So now we have a sprite sheet, and each of these is 1350 wide. So if I were to play this back and adjust the position of it 1350 pixels. It would play back that animation. So now I'm going to save this and then open it in Illustrator so that I can outline it as a vector. I don't need that, and I don't need this. Let's come over to OBS. That image can still run in the side. Turn off Photoshop. Open up Illustrator. This is simple enough to where I could probably have it be outlined, but I prefer to do it manually because I think it ends up looking a little bit better. These are going to be pretty small, ultimately. Illustrator is opening. Quit Photoshop. Come to Illustrator. And oh, I don't need a new file. I need to open this other file. Not taller book, live designs, new book animations, sprite raster. And once that's open, let's just make a print that is letter sized. Okay, that is the size that this was. Appreciate you watching. Makes it like a different experience to sort of talk as I'm working. It's a better experience. So that's there. Let's add a new layer and just start tracing this. And I'm gonna make this red just because it's a little bit, oh, this document is in. Why is this black and white? Why is this showing black and white? Oh, thanks for reminding me. I sometimes start working and Illustrator, and I just forget to do stuff, but I don't know why. Okay, it's doing fine there. But it was black and white in these other guys. Don't save that. Don't save that. And I'm just going to be outlining these guys. since you're a Patreon subscriber and I actually have physical or like finished sort of work today, you'll be able to access the scans shortly after I finish streaming today. I haven't had as much that's been posted up as far as artwork and stuff is concerned recently, because I've just been working on this book and it's a lot of resolving issues, but nothing's really like finished or in a state that I would be like, this is good for people to have access to, because it's incomplete and pretty messy. I'll probably hold off on having the vectors immediately available, but the scans will be up on there and you can look at them. They'll be in a Dropbox folder. Unedited, just sort of as they are, so you'll be able to see the full scanned page. Almost done.
I know this is part of my real life.
Now we have silhouettes. For my own sense of things, I'm just gonna make these white. Make sure these are flush with whatever corner. And save this. You know what? Let's make the characters just like a gray color. Save this as Sprite Illustrator. And then save this as an SVG. And then turn off Illustrator here. Come back to Photoshop, which is not currently open. I don't know why it has a window preview of it. And test out this sprite sheet, see what it looks like for playback. So let's open this file. What's 1350 times 12? And let's copy all of this and make a new guy that is 1350 tall. And okay. I feel like I could make this better. Here's what I think I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna just print this out and then trace over it and then pull it back in so I get a better sort of sense of consistency. Maybe that might be my best approach, the easiest for me at least. So that I can get... That doesn't work as a stencil. Hmm. I'm not sure what I want to do. I want to get the animation working a little bit better, but so right now this is a bit jiggly. Hmm. I think I might just animate it again. I will play for you. I don't know if I'll end up having any issues, but I've got the tape that I recorded at a lower speed. Oh, wait, I forgot. This one was recorded at whatever speed, and then the playback was faster. Whatever on that, but I'll play this tape that's got comedy bits on it. But it's like comedy radio from, I guess, the 50s. I actually don't know when.
And now, from approximately coast to coast, Bob Elliott and Ray Goulding take pleasure in presenting the Bob and Ray Public Radio Program.
Webley Webster here used to.
I used to play the organ when
that's-
you were on that radio station there in New York.
Biggest hit was Jealousy, I
Yes,
remember.
sir. Big studio organ. I used to play
And
it
the
all the
longest
time.
introduction of any song.
Not many radio stations have a big pipe organ anymore. They just have these little
The
squirt
electric-
things.
well,
that just
part
all
of
over
it-
playing.
Part of it's the financial thing, and these take up less room. You know, we're doing that. We want to welcome you to this Bob and Ray Public Radio Show, brought to you by our generous subscribers. Einbinder, the greatest name in flypaper. This year, more than ever before, make flypaper an important part of your life.
And, of course, by Monongahela, the metal foundry that casts its ingots with the housewife in mind.
We Rudolph
and Irma.
of the Rudolph and Irma Dance Studios. And if you have a dollar bill
Any dollar bill,
that's green,
it entitles you to one free dance lesson at
Rudolph and
And
Irma's
Irma's
Dance
Dance
Studios, located at 5913 Harper Street in Arverne, Long Island.
Sorry,
No,
Rudolph.
that's all right.
Did you want to say that together with me?
Well, that's all right.
Togetherness is so important, though.
Yeah, especially in the dance business.
That's right.
Should be cleaner. Let me mark out these parameters.
wild bison before that rodeo event was outlawed by most state legislatures.
Well, that's very interesting. Where's Tumbleweed now?
Well, I don't think they ever officially outlawed bison roping in Montana, but since the event had been dropped from rodeos in other states, it gradually died out there, too.
I see.
Of course, of Stuffy Hodgson. Stuffy, welcome to the sports room. How do you feel?
Well, I feel pretty sad, naturally, Biff, realizing that this is the last day. Pretty sad.
Well, that's a pretty normal way to feel, but still in all, looking back over this long career of yours, you got to admit the game has been pretty good to you.
Well, not as good. turf. You know, it's like playing the game on a billiard table. You're back there to make a play. The ball takes these crazy hops, jumps up and hits you here in the clavicle. Now, you got to dig in and play it. If you're going to win this game, you got to dig in. You got to make that play. And that goes for both teams, irreversible.
His driver's license and 5 credit cards in the cab of the hijacked truck when he abandoned it. His trial only lasted a half hour before he was found guilty.
Well, that was only because he signed a full confession, Chief. But I know that he had to be shielding the real criminal. Too many things. of intrigue among the socially prominent. There in stately splendor, far removed from the squalid village below, they fight their petty battles over power and money. Now, as this week's action begins, young Rodney Murchfield is counting paper clips in his palatial office at the Murchfield Lead Mining Company.
See that this one's a lot cleaner and less shaky, which is more appealing when it's going to be like a vector thing. And it's got a little bit more expression happening for the silhouette aspect of it. The legs clear a little bit more from one another, so there's a little bit better communication of how the silhouette's walking. And the feet are a little bit more grounded as well. Okay, I'm gonna outline this guy. So this doesn't need to be
Well, can organized criminals fit in comfortably with the socially prominent Murchfields? And what about Pamela's mysterious failure to return from lunch? Perhaps we'll learn. from approximately coast to coast, it's the Bob and Ray Public Radio Show. Okay, and today we've had our scouts searching the railroad and bus stations around New York for victims of misfortune. And several of them here have been selected to receive assistance from our generous Bob and Ray organization. Stop polishing my shoes with the tip of your nose. I think you've made your groveling attitude quite clear now.
Well, it was only meant as a gesture of devotion, Chief Orderly Snellwell, but if it bugs you, I'll gladly return to my menial duties.
Not so fast, Winecoop.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I've been just outlining in Illustrator. Anyway, let's pull it into Photoshop. Three, three, seven.
A lot of cutting up the day of the honor, though. Doc Markwell, the druggist, filled a lot of prescriptions wrong. Jay Fitzer, the mechanic, went crazy with his grease gun, and he really had
Well,
a
have
great...
any changes taken place, Mayor Grosvenor?
Yes, because of the publicity East Pardue got when it was named Honor City, a lot of industry was attracted to the area.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure it will herald a new era of unparalleled prosperity in East Pardue.
Yes, sir. 3 days after...
Okay. This should work pretty well for the book. So where this figure was designed for a horizontal space, the one over here is designed to fit pretty much the full frame, give or take a small amount. It's also fewer frames, a clearer thing, a larger area to view through, and so hopefully this one works pretty well because it'll be 4 fewer spokes and making it taller as well. So this should function. Let me test something. 8.5. Let's make Ooh, 8.5 divided by 12.
Effects of an experience like that can last a
Well,
lifetime.
that's very true. But not many normal-sized people have the human compassion to understand that. I really enjoyed meeting you and having this little
This
conversation.
Well,
is-
thank you. If there's anything we can do to
Well,
make
if you're ever out in East Islip, you can stop in for dinner. Give me a call from the station. I'll come over and pick you up.
That's very...
One 1.2597. Shouldn't be frame 8. Some adjustments here. Something mostly works, but I need to figure some elements out. Anyway, I gotta head out and start working on cooking dinner and such, but the frames that I worked on will be available very soon. If you're subscribed on Patreon, if you want to buy stuff from me, you can go to my web store, traceloops.com/store. If you want to purchase something and have it shipped outside of the U.S., you can email me, traceloops@traceloops.com. You can also email me with comments, concerns, questions, curiosities, commissions, etc., etc. Again, that is traceloops@traceloops.com. If you want to watch this stream or other streams in full, you can do so by going to the live section of my YouTube channel. If you want to follow me on other platforms, you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, Spotify, all of those places. I'm Trace Loops, TRECELOOPS. If you want to subscribe to my Patreon, you can do so by going to patreon.com/traceloops, where you will find high-resolution versions of artwork that I create during streams. You also find a selection of tutorials, and then at higher tiers, new songs from me weekdays, and at the highest tier, you get a monthly postcode for me with original artwork on the front, little message on the back, and a discount to that aforementioned web store. Thank you for watching. I'm going to head out and work on dinner. Have a good evening. Adios.